Yeah, I'll get a little louder. How's that?
Yeah, blast it out, Cece.
Okay. My mother used to say I could be heard in Carnegie Hall without a microphone, but those days have passed, I think. I am humbled and delighted to be here this morning. I think that it is Trinity Sunday, and I want to say that one of the things when I was young, I really thought that, there was a Trinity, and it was these three things somewhere up there, and it was all called God when you put it all together, which really sort of baffled me. Now, of course, I'm well aware that I don't need to know. But I think that as I've gotten older, I've gotten to feel more of a connection, not only to God and the Trinity, but to the whole part of the universe, which is God. And we heard this morning that only God is holy in the hymn. You know the ancient meaning of the word that we say holy now in the original, as long as people can figure out that people said things? The word holy simply means whole. It means all together, with no empty places, no borders, because if you're whole, there's nothing left outside. There isn't any outside. So that's kind of a thing that I would like to touch on today. But I want to touch on another thing today too, which is call, and how we are all called in some way. And to do that, I'm going to go back to today's Old Testament readings, two of them. And what I'd like you to just listen for in this story is how two people were called to serve God. And there's a little difference in the way that happened. One was a full-fledged grown-up, the other was a child. But the thing is the same. And the first reading, the one from the liturgy thing for the year, is from Isaiah, the 6th chapter. And this is Isaiah talking about how he got called. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and 2 he covered his feet. And with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations and the thresholds shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of people with unclean lips, for mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphim to me, having in his hand a burning coal, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin forgiven. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, Here I am, send me. And he said, Go. And that is the first Isaiah. Now before that, as many of you know, before Israel had kings, the prophets were the people that they looked up to for their leadership. And this is the story of Eli and Samuel in the beginning. Samuel was a child serving in the temple because his mother had dedicated him to God from his birth. And Eli was the chief prophet in the temple, who was also his teacher, his mentor, and for all practical purposes, his father. So this is what happens. Now the boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord under Eli. And the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There were no frequent visions. At that time, Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim, so that he could not see, was lying down in his own place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down within the temple of the Lord, where the Ark of the Covenant was. Then the Lord called, "Samuel, Samuel." And he said, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But Eli said, "I did not call. Lie down again." So he went back and lay down. And the Lord called again, "Samuel." And Samuel woke up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call my son. Lie down again." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. And the Lord asked Samuel again the third time. And he arose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, "Go lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for thy servant hears.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood forth, calling as at other times, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel said, "Speak, for thy servant hears." And the Lord said to Samuel, "Behold, I am about to do a thing in Israel, at which the two ears of every one that hears it will tingle." So that is how Eli knew that Samuel had been called, and he becomes one of the greatest prophets that Israel has ever known. So there's a difference in the kind of call, isn't there? Samuel's a little kid, and he's waked up in the middle of the night. He's about 10, maybe, we think at this point. And he's awakened in the middle of the night, and he hears a voice calling him. Well, who's going to call him? Eli's going to call him. So 3 times he goes, wakes Eli up, and finally Eli gets the message. He says, "It's not me, it's the Lord. So go and call." So hold that thought for a minute. When I listen to anybody speak, I want to know a little bit about the speaker. So in a nutshell, I'm the oldest of 6. First a boy, then 4 girls, and then a boy. I grew up in Binghamton in the school season and on Aquaga Lake in the summers. My parents believed deeply in education, and we were well educated, sometimes more than we could hold. I became a teacher in the 7th and 10th grades and adult studies, including business and industrial training. Being curiouser than the average bear, I became fascinated not so much by what people learn, but how they do it. And that led me to learn about learning from those who had studied it, from those who do it easily, and even more from those who were uniquely blessed in their learning processes. Bit by bit, I recognized that interacting with others in a listening way to learn setting is my life's call. I love every minute of it, the effort, the prayer, the study, and the reward of coming to know more and more about myself. I studied for 4 years for a certificate in spiritual companioning, so I could learn to listen for the still, small voice of God, and to help others listen as well. So here's what I heard when I was listening to Isaiah and Samuel. Like Samuel as a boy in the temple, we are all where we are supposed to be. What would have happened to the Israelites if Samuel's mother had not given him to the temple? He did not choose to be where he was. Perhaps there were days when he wanted to be anywhere else. Still, he prepared as he was asked and listened to what he learned. We are what we are created to be, and at least most of the time, do our best to do what that place in God's universe needs us to do. Most likely, we will never know specifically what it is or how to do it. How can that be? Well, first of all, because we are here. Something in us calls us to gather as a caring community to spend some dedicated time with each other and with God. We are hungry and we come for soul food. We are grieving when we come for comfort. We are worried, seeking strength. Joyful, bursting to share, and to lend our presence to those who have the same reasons. Whatever the reasons, we are called and we answer. You're here. Eli is right. When God calls, the best answer is simply, here I am, Lord. But where, we ask, is here? How do we know where we are? So many blinding, inexplicable things happen to us, our friends, our nation, and our world. Are we all just lost in the stars, crossing the skies in a lonely ark? And so, like Samuel, we get up each day in faith. We trust that there is strength to do what we must, and maybe a bit left over for some fun. Where are you in God's creation? Take a look at the tapestry on the easel here, if you can see it. And I have another one I'm going to show you in a minute. Notice as many details as you can. There are many colors that vary among the different symbols. Some are easily seen because of their brightness. Others are quieter. All are connected and formed by the backing behind them. I have seen some magnificent 30 by 40 foot tapestries picturing medieval scenes of castles, hunting, and religious themes at the Ringling Museum in Sarasota. I love them. I could spend days just looking at them. I cannot imagine the number and variety of threads that make up that scene. They're large enough to cover about a third of our sacristy wall and almost from floor to ceiling. I can't imagine how people ever wove them either. I'm blown away each time I see the threads, paint colors and textures, gold, silver, bright purple, deep greens, and reds. They shine and shimmer on the clothing and on the ornaments. Others are dark green, dark blue, and black. They create the depth of landscapes, storm clouds like yesterday coming over, the soldier's armor and more. Holding the layers are thin, strong threads woven behind the story. Finally, there are the backing cords. They are seen by the weavers only, and they are made to endure from generation to generation. Those tapestries are hundreds of years old. Most of them were made sometime around the 1200s or 1300s. Thanks to Mary, I had this little example to show you. This is a tapestry, and this one is handmade. Those were woven. This is stitched. But notice the variety of color in the threads, and how some are bright and some are quiet. There's a lot of some and not very much of some of the other ones. But they're all there, and together they make something quite lovely. In the back, they don't look quite so lovely, but they're firmly attached to the backing, which is what makes them last so long. And then there are these guys. When this is finished, nobody will see these. On the tapestries on the wall, nobody sees these. But you know what, folks? These are what holds the whole thing together and makes it last for hundreds of years. So every thread has a purpose, and without it, the whole story would never be told. If I had a picture of as much of a Ringling tapestry as my camera could hold, we would only be able to see a horse, a person, one castle. My camera and I are not capable of seeing the whole creation. I don't know how far away from it you'd have to get a picture of the whole thing. We are threads in the tapestry of God's creation. Which one is not the question. Doesn't matter whether we shine on a sword or a necklace, or give depth to a mountain or lightning to a storm, or lend our strength to the strong backing cord. The tapestry Mary led us. Are you a piece of the flower petal? Are you red, green, blue, or gold? Or are you a link in the strong brown backing? Your guess is as good as mine. No one knows the mind of God. Eli did not tell Samuel what to tell God or what to ask for, only to say, here I am, Lord. Right here, where we are in the universe, is the only are asked to accept God's call to be that patient thread hanging on to our part of God's vision, knowing that we belong to the whole and the whole belongs to us. The prophet Micah tells us, and you've heard this probably thousands of times, this is what the Lord asks of you, only this, to act justly, to love tenderly, and to walk humbly with your God. And that's Micah 6:8. Life, as you know, is made up of seconds, minutes, hours, etc. We need only to do our best to live each day awake in love and asleep in peace. As I began, I asked if we sometimes felt lost in the stars. Here is, I believe, the best answer I can give to that question. Each lives alone in a world of dark, crossing the skies in a lonely ark, save when love leaps out like a leaping spark over thousands, thousands of miles. Not miles, nor walls, nor length of days, nor the cold doubt of midnight can hold us apart. For swift